Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore podcast. It's the Evermore YouTube channel. Hope you're all enjoying your festive breaks. You can see I've been joined by some wonderful human beings, in the words of the manager. We've just pumped, and we've also got our very own resident fox. Lee Forster is with us, the silver fox. I've got to get it in early. How we doing, lads? You okay?
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was all good.
Lee, it's a compliment, mate. You got to take it, honestly. You got to enjoy these compliments, mate. You really do. Looking very suave. That must be your Christmas jumper, Lee. You're looking very good in that one, mate. I must admit.
Well,
very stylish. Unless you've stole the youngin's jumper, mate, possibly. Turning back the clock. What am I talking about? Look at the state of me, like I'm going for a run. But no, it's great to have the lads back on. We've got loads to talk about. It's exciting times being Newcastle fans. We're all just smiling ear to ear, really. So we're going to get stuck in a minute. A little bit of housekeeping before we do. If you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We are currently on 2,198 subscribers. So we're really close to 2,200, which is unbelievable. We're just over a year old. So love all the people who've clicked the button. You're all welcome here. It's all free content. Just us fans talking about this amazing club, which we're going to get stuck into in a minute. And as always, we are live. As you can see, we've already got some guys joining in the comments, some of the regulars, even to you, Roger. We've also got Carl is in the house. How we doing, Carl? Ash is there as well. And we've got Gibbo is also there. So let's get stuck in, lads. Listen, it's been another unbelievable weekend. I don't even know what day of the week it is, really. Monday night fixtures, you name it. Newcastle United got another victory coming back from the World Cup. Lee, I've took the piss out of you, so I'm going to start with you, mate. Give you a chance to say something about the club. What a game, mate. What a performance against Leicester. Were you expecting that?
If you can ask Paul, I'm the most pessimistic Newcastle fan you will ever meet in your life. Doesn't matter who we're playing. I'm always a bit nervous and what have you. And with our record on Boxing Day, I genuinely didn't hold out a great deal of hope for coming away with a win. I thought we might snatch a point. Just out of curiosity, does anybody remember the last team we beat on Boxing Day before Monday?
Ooh. Must have been in the Championship, was it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Stoke City, when Mark Hughes had an absolute meltdown and threw his jacket into the Milburn stand.
5-1.
What a glorious day that was.
Was that Kabay and Cisse on the score sheet, I think?
I think it was Loic Remy and Ben Arthur.
Oh, was it Remy? Oh, God, yeah.
Two red cards, I think. Two or three red cards for Stoke.
Yeah, and a Mark Hughes meltdown. It was biblical, it was. Anyway, coming back to the Leicester game, I was nervous, as I'm always nervous. Was giving a big fillip when I saw Maddison was missing, because he makes them tick. He really does. But listen, 120 seconds or whatever it was into the game, my nerves almost completely disappeared, because from the minute Amati lost his head for that split second on the edge of the area, because the ball wasn't there to be won, and Chris Wood, Christ, that lad can take a penalty. The minute he scored that, second he scored that penalty, there was only ever one team in it. There really was only ever one team in it. Newcastle were out of sight and deservedly so by 32 minutes. And I think we only had 39% possession in the entire game, but I don't think that's because I think that's probably more a case of Newcastle just controlled the game and they did what they needed to do from 30 minutes in, which is a sign of a professional outfit, where they just said to Leicester, right, what have you got? Let's see what you've got. Have you got anything to worry us? And if Leicester had scored maybe one, potentially even two, I think Newcastle would have gone again, and I think they would have made sure there was clear distance between us and them. They were that comfortable for the entire match. I thought Bruno was in his cocky best mode. He was taking the piss, celebrating throw-ins, celebrating winning corners, which I thought was absolutely immense. Sven Botman, there's little more I can say about this fella that's not already been said. It just looks like he's been playing in the Premier League for 10 years. He just looks so comfortable. And if you had to ask me to sum up the performance in one word, it would be controlled. Totally and utterly controlled. So, yeah, it was a nice 18th birthday present for my lad, believe me.
Oh, happy birthday to Zach. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you going to give him his jumper back, though? It's a bit nasty you nicked it, mate.
It's not his jumper.
I'm only joking, mate. I'm only jealous, mate, because I didn't get as good a Great summary, mate. PK, just coming to you as well on this one. I mean, I was the same as Lee. I was a bit concerned, worried about the lads coming back from the World Cup. I know we had a good pre-season game or mid-season game, whatever the hell you want to call it, against the Saudi Arabian side, Al Hilal, and then obviously we beat Bournemouth in the Cup. But this was a different kettle of fish altogether. Leicester picked up form. Yeah. Obviously, Maddison missing was massive for them, mate. But I did not expect us to just absolutely annihilate them in the first 30 minutes. I mean, we were like shit off a stick. They couldn't deal with us, mate, could they?
I think I agree with Lee with regards to that. I'd heard on the press conference from Rodgers that Maddison was doubtful. He was obviously never going to say he wasn't playing. Excuse me. And I think from then I thought, well, we've got a real chance here. I did predict 2-1 in my predictor league, but 3-0 was crazy. But you're right. You know what? And I saw the teams. I saw Wilson's out yet again, right? And I know we had that chat in the on our own WhatsApp thread. I thought, God, he's out again. Chris Wood's playing up front. But you know what? Probably the best game I've seen Chris Wood have. He controlled the ball well. Okay, he always scores his penalties, which is great. Controlled the ball well. He held it up well. He ran into space. He occupied some defenders for a change, let's be honest. But I thought, for me, I just thought Bruno controlled that game from start to finish. He controlled the pace of the game. I mean, that Almiron's goal was phenomenal because Bruno pinged a 30-yard ball, I think, to Trippier, who dropped it down the line to Miggy. And then obviously that 1-2 with Bruno and the finish was it was exquisite, wasn't it? 7 minutes in and 2-0 up. And you think, as soon as that happened, the game was pretty much won. I love watching teams play out from the back and piss about with that ball at the back because for us, it's just music to our ears, isn't it? Because we are such an intense team now, closing teams down from front to middle to back now. That's just brilliant for us. Unless it's a team like Man City who can do it and do it well. A team like Leicester who got shaky defence at the best of times. That's like, just keep doing that and we'll just keep pinching the ball off you. Thank you very much. But we never really looked in danger. I think their first shot on target was 82 minutes. Something like that. Was it the young lad that they got, Dewsbury Hall, who actually...
Oh, yeah.
He was irrelevant in that game, wasn't he? Anonymous in that game. Most of them were really. Daka, I quite like Daka because he got a lot of pace and he scored some goals last season, but he's not been very good this year, has he?
No.
And with the keeper that they've got, having lost Schmeichel, they're just a bit shaky. So I just thought, I know they came into it pre-World Cup with a bit of form, but we just blew them away, really, didn't we? And we weren't at our best. It was game, as soon as it went 2-0, it was real game management for the rest of the game. Come away from the old Filbert Street, whatever it's called now, with a 3-0 win. Absolutely delighted with that, especially with Leeds coming up.
Absolutely. Adam, I know Bruno gets all the plaudits, because he was at his mental best, cheering tackles and just, had that cheeky grin on his face and everything. But there was one lad in particular you were singling out in our group chat, mate. I'm gonna let you wax lyrically about him because I don't know if there's anything better we can say about the lad, but you're gonna give it a good shot, mate. Tell us which player you were impressed with the most.
Well, I just thought that Sven Botman just looks. I'm almost like run out of words for how good Sven Botman is. I said after the show last week, we stayed on for a little bit of a chat afterwards, just how incredibly professional he looks all the time. Just the level of composure. Back to goal, coming out of the back, doesn't matter where he's coming from. He's just a tremendous, tremendous player. So composed on the ball, so in control of every situation. I mean, I saw him live when I was over in the UK for the Chelsea game. And I think I said to you and Mark last week, I've never seen a player who is that good live at his job. Bruno is obviously incredible at his job and so on and so forth, but just being a defender, I just thought he was fantastic. Truly, truly fantastic. I think he had 96% passer accuracy. I don't really know what that means in the grand scheme of things, but one of my favorite things he did was such a simple thing, playing out the back, obviously left centre back. He hit a 40-yard pass right-footed to Kieran Trippier to start a little break down the right. And I was like, this guy's supposed to be left-footed, but he's hitting 40-yard right-footed passes perfectly to Kieran Trippier. So yeah, I just think that we're incredibly blessed to have a player like that. He's such a good player. If you were to build a prototype for a centre back, it would basically be Sven Botman. My goodness, if he was as good looking as Fabian Schär, we'd have something else on our hands. But we're very, very fortunate. to have him. And just to summarize the game, just very quickly, the lads did such a good job. But I think to take Lee's point in particular, it was such a professional performance. That was it. The game was won after 30 minutes. We didn't need to score 5 or 6 or 7. We probably could have. But I think in the second half in particular, you saw a real sense of pride about getting the clean sheet. That's what it really looked like to me. It looked like the whole back five and the midfielders as well in particular just really wanted that clean sheet. And to PK's point, we didn't look in any danger at all. I know they had a couple of half chances towards the end, but nothing that really scared me. So incredibly impressed. I was actually more confident than I usually am. I'm a bit like Lee, generally pretty pessimistic about all things. But yeah, I was quietly confident myself. I think I said last week that we'd win 2-0. And obviously 3-0 is even better. So yeah, very, very happy, feeling very good about it.
Chip in on the Botman subject. I think when you look at foreign centre halves coming into the Premier League, and I'm talking the real ones that people remember as being utterly class, your Companies, your
Vidic, guys like that. Yeah,
even your Colacinis, they all took a season to settle before they went on to become world-class centre halves. Mm-hmm. This lad slotted in seamlessly. It's frightening how good this lad can be. And I still can't quite get my head around the fact that Holland didn't take him to the World Cup. I mean,
Nathan Aki.
Yeah, what on God's earth do you think?
What was that about?
I mean, listen, if let's just say in 2, 3 months, 4 months' time, somebody would have come in for him, you've doubled your money without a shadow of doubt. You've doubled your money on Sven Botman. And I don't think it'll be long before people are talking about him having the same transformative effect on our defence as Bruno's had on our midfield. I genuinely don't. I think it's that good. And I always said he was going to be.
We've lost one game this season and Botman wasn't playing. Yeah. Never lost a game of football for us yet. And I think I know Mark's the stat man here, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong. He hasn't lost an aerial duel in the last 3 games.
That's incredible. In a league like this is absolutely incredible. I mean, I left that comment from Gibbo there. We'll forget this lad is 22 years old. I mean, that is absolutely scary. How good he is, how composed he is, how dominant he is against, some real, dangerous centre forwards in this league. I think Haaland's probably the only one who's given him a game, and he kind of had him controlled for most of the game, apart from the split second that Haaland lost him. But that's what world-class centre forwards do. We've had loads of comments coming in. Just wanted to pull this one up there for the guys from Gallagher Shots. Lovely to see nice comments from other channels in there in the comments. Nice to see you, lads. Just saying, good to see so many smiling faces on fellow NUFC fan faces. Whole area. And the fan base is absolutely buzzing. Absolutely, lads. We love what you do as well. You've got an unbelievable channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop that in. Ash is saying that Sven Botman and Haaland are football's equivalent of Ivan Drago. He loves the movie reference, does Ash. He's not far off the mark there at all. But I just think
it's like they were both made in a laboratory.
Yeah, exactly. Both cooked up in a lab by a mad scientist. And Gibbo says there, no wonder Maldini wanted them. Absolutely. And just to make you feel better, PK, you're right with the stats. The stat man has backed you up, mate. So well done. Well done. You've had your Christmas medicine there, mate. Well done. But yeah, I just think my thoughts on the game quickly before we move on is I think Adam's right. It was just so professional. I mean, this team is just so precise, so determined that they look completely unflappable. They go into games just believing in Eddie Howe's ethos, believing in what he's told them to do. Me and PK were talking before we came on. Brendan Rodgers must have been absolutely fucking raging at Leicester, because the last thing he would have said to them was, this lot press you high, don't fuck around. And that's exactly what Leicester did. Joe Linton seized on the ball, took a bad touch, as PK said, took him kind of to the left, and Amarati just went completely panicked, slung a leg out, and then straight away they're right up against one of the most relentless teams in the Premier League right now. And once they went 1-0 down, they're going to struggle to get back into it. I thought when they brought Vardy on, or should I say when they wheeled Vardy on with his creaky knees, they looked a little bit better because Vardy still has a little bit of something in him, but he can't do it for 90 minutes. But I was watching him against Botman, as Adams singled out Botman there for praise. Botman was like swatting a fly in the kitchen. He was just like, piss off, get away, you stupid little fucking... He wasn't bothered at all, Vardy did nothing to make Botman sweat whatsoever. I mean, I think Adam raised this on the last pod we were on as well. What's going to be interesting, I think, with the back five is I think Burns doing amazing at left back. I think somebody will do him one game. Somebody will tie him up in knots because he's not a left back. But I think, Adam, just to bring you back now, I think you did mention this in the last pod. The long-term partner for Botman is going to be an interesting one, isn't it, moving forward? Because Fabian Schär's been outstanding, but he's not probably the long-term partner for Botman, is he? So what do you think we're going to look to bring in alongside Botman? Will it be somebody who's like Fabian Schär or somebody who maybe can, complement them? It's going to be an interesting one, that, isn't it, with the transfer window, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they're in any rush. I think the great thing about Fabian Schär's form is it saved them, prioritizing that position. I don't think they expected Sven Botman to be this good this quickly. I think Eddie's been pretty open about that. And I also don't think they thought, Fabian Schär would play this well. I think if they're going to take a long-term view on that, they're going to have to buy someone who has the ability that Fabian Schär has to bring the ball out into midfield. I think Sven Botman probably can do that. He does less of that with Fabian Schär and the team. Schär actually had one really nice dribble in the last game. They almost got through one-on-one in the second half. He just ghosted through that midfield like no one was even aware of him there. But yeah, if they can find a right-footed version of Sven Botman, they'll be in a really good spot. The other thing I would like to see them do, and I think I brought this up to you guys last week, is buy a 19, 20-year-old right-footed centre-back and have him sort of understudy to Fabian Schär for a year or two. I think they've got 2 years on Fabian's contract this year, and then 2 after that. I could be off by maybe it's just.
He just extended in the summer, didn't he?
I think he's got 2 years after this.
2 years.
So it'd be great to get the young lad from Benfica. I don't know if the timing is right on all of that, but there's that young lad Antonio Silva. I'm crap at names. I think it's Antonio Silva. I think he's 19. Just played for Portugal at the World Cup. It would be great to get him in. It'd be expensive, don't get me wrong. And you'd have to sell the idea of being an understudy perhaps for a year or two. But that would be incredible. If you had a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old centre-backs for Newcastle for the next decade, that would be that sorted, wouldn't it? It'd be really incredible. So I'd like to see them do that. Maybe not this window, maybe in the summer or down the road, get an understudy to Schär for a year or two.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know there's talk about. We'll probably cover obviously the transfer window a lot closer to January, but there's talk about the young lad from West Ham. I put a little highlight reel, didn't I, in our chat of the day? Is it Lansbury? Lansbury, I think it is. And you look at him.
Ashby.
That's it, Ashby. Sorry, Lansbury's that shithouse play for fucking Forest, one that we hated. Let's get mixed up there. But you look at the highlight reel of the lad. Yes, it's youth team football and kind of reserve team football, but he's got a little bit of the Trippier about him, isn't he? Bombs down the right, he whips the ball, and he's good from set pieces and corners. And as to Adam's point there is, if you can get a player like that to learn from Trippier for 2 or 3 seasons, it's that smart planning behind the scenes. It's that contingency plan that these guys are going to move on. And we're going to have lads to come in, PK, aren't we, to hopefully step in to their roles when they move on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, Christ, who better to learn from than Trippier if you can get an 18 or 19-year-old? That Harrison Ashby, West Ham don't want to lose him, apparently. But I think we were very keen in the summer, and I think we put a cheeky one in on the last day that they turned down and thought, right, well, they'll revisit that, that's for sure. Just a quick point on Dan Burn, you were saying, he will get rinsed one day. He got rinsed in the second half at Old Trafford. Lee and I were there, and Anthony tore him a new one. And I was talking on, who did we beat in the cup last week? Bournemouth, yeah. Talking about the Bournemouth game, and I was watching Burn, and we know how solid he is, but he just, for me, just doesn't really offer us enough going forward from the left-back position. And I just think he's lacking a bit of pace at centre-half. So for me, he's a brilliant squad player to have around. And I know he started pretty much every game in the last 12 months for us. I'm not sure he's the long-term answer. So I wonder, I'm not sure why Matty Targett can't get back in, but I wonder if they'll go for a more attacking left-back at some point. Probably not this window again, maybe in the summer. Somebody to complement Trippier's work on the right with, doing a similar thing down the left. I may be wrong, but I just think that's what they might be looking at. At the end of the day, anybody coming in, you've got to keep, organically growing as a when he said a business there, as a club, and you got to keep improving. And if opportunities come up to sign ex players or whatever, you've got to lose the sentiment. Big Dan Burn, he's from Blythe. Yeah, great squad player, but he's done a great job for us in 12 months. But if he ain't going to take us to the next level, and that's got to be Champions League, then you replace him and you get somebody better. That's the way that we will grow as a football club.
Yeah, just to bring Lee in a second there, because you threw a good name in a comment there, Lee. But in terms of Tommy's comment there about centre halves coming through, Lee, I'll bring you in this one as well. I think they signed as a young Alex Murphy, I think it was, from Kilmarnock when he played a little bit against Al Hilal, and he had a bit of pace about him as well, didn't he? So I think there's big hopes for him. But there's another player you wanted to mention as well, mate, which is maybe worth having a look at in the Premier League already.
Yeah, if we're looking at young centre halves, I mean, we have been linked with this lad before. If you want somebody to learn from Trippier over the next 2 or 3 years, the right age, young, English, Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth is an absolute no-brainer for me.
Yeah, good player.
He is absolutely solid. He's very, very similar in terms of his style to Shaw, I think. So for me, Lloyd Kelly, I think he can't be any more than 21, 22. I think he was Bournemouth's youngest ever captain as well. I don't know whether he's been injured recently because I've not seen that he's been in the team. But for me, Kelly, he wouldn't come cheap. You'd be looking at 25 to 30 million. But
he's 24. He's 24, actually. 24? Yeah,
even then, 24 years old, he's got another 8 years at the top, or potentially to develop. And what you call it, him and Botman, for me, long term could be a partnership to be reckoned with. I genuinely do.
Well,
I'm not sure you go. Be curious to see if they go 2 left-footed centre backs though, because Lloyd Kelly's left-footed, isn't he?
Yeah.
I know he plays left back
likes
as well.
He likes the balance, Adam, doesn't he? He likes the right and the left.
Yeah, it's become very popular, that left-footed, right-footed thing. They've also got that young Charlie MacArthur that they brought down from Scotland, who's a right-footed centre back. So they've got Murphy and MacArthur. I mean, we're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds here. We're not talking about first teamers anytime soon. But clearly, that's a Dan Ashworth mentality, isn't it? His job is clearly to evolve the academy outlook and how we're bringing in young players and developing them and hopefully finding the right path to get to the first team. I mean, I think Alex Murphy is he even 18 yet? I'm not sure. I know he was 17 when they signed him.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's been involved a little bit at the first team level, albeit in kickabouts, is very, very promising. So it'd be great to see 2, 3, 4 more teenagers brought in and sort of hover between the first team and the 23s. I think that would be a really good sign for the future.
Absolutely, a good comment by Mark there as well. If there's a proper DM out there, I mean, that's something we've talked about quite a lot, and it's something that wins you titles. Good defenders and defensive midfielders. Lovely segue, PK. I know you love a segue, mate. So that's taking.
I love a segue.
You love a segue, mate. This is the segue. Now, this might sound batshit crazy, and people who are not Newcastle fans, even people who are Newcastle fans, will laugh at this little banner at the bottom here. But Brendan Rodgers was asked after the game, are Newcastle United title contenders? And he said, absolutely. Now, I've probably got 3 of the most pragmatic members of Evermore on this episode. So I'm not expecting any excitement. But PK, I'm coming to you first. Are we genuine title contenders, mate?
Absolutely fucking not. We have, we haven't got the strength and depth to win the title. We haven't got enough goals to win the title, but we are tight as fuck at the back, aren't we? So, you know what? I love the tongue-in-cheek Newcastle fans at Leicester on Boxing Day singing, we're Newcastle and we're going to win the league. It's brilliant. And that even the commentators picked it up and it's like, it's just a bit of irony, guys. But there's absolutely not a chance that we are going to win the title this year. I don't care what anyone says. And I know what you're going to do, Chris, because I've seen your slides that you're going to bring the fixtures up and tell us how many points we're going to get. But you know what? I mean, I think we'll beat Leeds on Friday. Then I think we probably will come unstuck at Highbury at the Emirates on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, whatever. But we haven't got enough. We're nowhere near winning the league yet. Yeah, we're on a great run. But every single season, you see a club where we are now. It's been West Ham for the last few years. Every season, without fail, there is a club outside that, the old school Big Six who challenge for a bit and drop off. Now, I'm not saying we're necessarily going to drop off and drop out the top 4, but we ain't going to have enough to win the title, I'm afraid. Not a chance. Sorry, mate. Sorry, lads.
Well, that's all right. I'm sure Lee's going to be as negative as you in a second when I pull him in. But just as I do, Lee, I'm going to pull up this wonderful slide right next to the side of this, and we'll get you and Adam's take on this, I suppose, hyperbole getting thrown out in the media. Shay Given's already bought into it, mate. He thinks we're going to win the league. He was salivating on Amazon. So what's your take on it, Lee? Is everyone just getting a little bit carried away, or should we dare to dream, mate?
No, not even close to daring to dream, to be honest with you. I'm going to back up PK's negativity with some cold, hard facts. Looking over the course of the past 6 years, I just looked at how many points it took to win the Premier League. Over the past 6 years, the average points to win the league is, I've written it down somewhere, 94.83 points. For us to get that, we need another 62 points. With 22 games left, we'd have to average 2.8 points per game for the remainder of the season. How shit hot have we been in the first 4 months of this season? And we're only averaging 2.06 points a game. It's just not happening in a million years. It's not happening as long as I've got a hole in my arse. What's far more realistic is what you call it, top four. Now, I looked at the same sort of thing over the course of the past 6 years for top four, and the average is 71 points. Yeah, we obviously would only need another 38 from 22 games, which is 1.7 points per game for the remaining 22 fixtures, which you have to say is absolutely eminently achievable. And listen, if you'd have offered any Newcastle fan Champions League at the start of this season, they'd have ripped both of your fucking arms off. Never mind one of them. The only thing I would say is there's this narrative now that's started to come from the press, from Sky Sports, from Talk Sports, from Amazon Prime, about our Newcastle title contenders. Don't let them build us up so they can knock us when we fall away, because we will fall away. We won't challenge. The way I'm looking at this season, just enjoy the ride. 2 seasons' time, I think we will challenge for the title. I genuinely think within 2 years, we will be serious title contenders, given what we've seen in terms of the trajectory we're on now, how quickly we've gone from where we were to where we are now. So, but for me, just enjoy this season for what it is, which is an adventure, and see where it takes us. And listen, if it takes us to 4th, if it takes us to 6th, so fucking be it. It's been brilliant, but don't, what you call it, buy into this whole shite. I mean, we get called deluded at the best of times. For me, the what you call the league still lands at the Etihad at the end of this season. I don't see any other outcome.
I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting, Adam. Just bringing you in before we do. I was crunching the numbers on this. I'm laughing at Mark's comment, which I'll pull up in a second. I think he's worried about his job with these stats flying around, lads. You better calm down here. But just looking at these fixtures, I think at me being incredibly optimistic, there was a few games that stood out to me as worrying ones, and they'll probably be the same for you, Adam. But providing we got points in those games, I worked out that we'd get 47 points out of these fixtures, which would finish have us finishing on 80 points, which maybe backs up what Lee was saying about the top 4 as opposed to the title. What's your take, mate? Are you the same with the lads? Do you think we should just chill the boots, or are you going all in, mate?
Well, no, I mean, listen, it sounds like I'm probably the most optimistic of the 4 of us, which is incredibly rare air for me to be in. I'm not particularly comfortable with how things are playing out. But what I will say, a couple of things. First of all, Lee is 110% right. This season is just about the ride. I think that PK, one of the first videos that you and I were on, you said something along the lines of the journey is going to be better than the destination. And I completely agree with that. And I completely agree that with what Lee said about 2, 3, 4 years from now, we probably will be, as long as we stay on this trajectory, a consistent top 4 contender. But right now, I'm just so fucking enjoying this ride. I'm loving every minute of being a Newcastle fan for the first time in so long. I love the fact that Eddie said that we've sort of earned the right to dream big. And like to Lee's point, I don't really give a shit where we end now. If we finish 2nd, that'll be incredible. If we finish 6th, that'll be incredible. I said at the beginning of this season we'll be lucky to break the top 10 because I'm just the most pessimistic guy around. I just think that we've got to really enjoy the journey that we're on right now. It's going to be so much fun. What I will say about this fixture list, though, now that I'm sort of looking at it all in one place, what I'm glad about is there's not like 2 games back to back where you're like, it's not like Man City then Liverpool or Arsenal then Chelsea then Tottenham then City. Like we've not got one of those really horrible runs where we might not win for 3 or 4 games. Even after the Liverpool game, you've got Bournemouth, Brighton either side of that. You've got Man City, but then you've got Wolves, Forest right after that. Man United, we've got Brentford, Forest before, Brentford after, and so on and so on. So we've got, in theory, these runs of fixtures where we should be getting plus points.
That looks like a very tidy April, doesn't it?
Yeah, it could be.
does.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
tidy
Yeah,
April when you look at the home games, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, going to Chelsea on the last day of the season is going to be horrible because my guesses will be two of the teams fighting it out for, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. My guesses will both be right there.
Do you mind if I ask you a question, Adam?
Game. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you mind? So let's say we're 4 points clear on the last day of the season and we've got to go to Chelsea. You'd still say we're going to lose the title, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's just my nature, mate. Just in my nature. But no, I mean, just to summarize, let's just enjoy the ride. We are not title contenders this year. No one expected us to be second after 17 games. The other thing, the last point I'll make is that second is a little bit of a false flag because everybody below us has got at least one game in hand. So, when everyone's on the same number of games, if we get to 20 games and everyone's on the same number, and we're in that second, third, fourth, I'll start feeling a lot better about the top four. But let's just enjoy it. I'm fucking loving every minute of it, and look, long may that continue.
You're right, Adam. We should be top because if fucking Jurgen Klopp didn't have a dodgy watch, and because of VAR, we should be top of the league, mate. You're right. It's a false position, but no, I think Randall's on the same page as you guys as well. Can't we just be happy? I don't know. The last time I was happy being a Newcastle supporter. Do you know what it is, honestly, lads? I just think it is a refreshing time, as the Gallagher Shots lad said before. I think we're all just walking around with smiles on our face. It doesn't matter what, whether you go to every home game, whether you watch at home, whether you're on the side of the country, on the side of the world, as Adam is. We're all just buzzing. Newcastle United being on this transitional journey. We're playing great football. We're proud of the lads that are representing us. And not a single one of them is a shithouse. Not a single one of them is a player that you don't think is going to give the raw. We've had horrible players in the past, like your Michael Owens and guys like that, where you just thought, I fucking hate that guy. I don't think there's any one of these players that any of us feel that way about. We're so proud to have them. Some of them are better than others, yes, but look at the shifts. The likes of, we were talking about this before, PK, likes of Longstaff's putting in Willock. Longstaff's not the best footballer on the planet, but he is absolutely grafting his arse off every single game, and he's doing an effective job for the team, which is helping us get to where we need to be. There will definitely be darker days ahead. There will be times where we lose a game. There will be times where I don't think the fan base will overreact as obviously we had a
dark day. Fuck me, a dark day because we've lost a game. Jesus Christ, man.
No, but compared to this cloud nine that we're on, mate, do you know what I mean? Is what I'm saying. That there will be times where we lose, but we won't react that badly because we've got faith in the manager, we've got faith in the lads. And we'll know we'll go again, and we'll pick up another victory. As Davey says, there it is hard to get the old Newcastle out of your head, lads, which I really think is what we've been conditioned. Is to fearing the worst, and that helps us not be the deluded fan base. That title is firmly with the Everton fans, by the way. Did you see their list of managers that they wanted if Lampard gets sacked? I mean, do me a fucking favour. Just well, I don't think anyone cares about Everton, even the Everton fans. But great comment by Jens there. Best channel around. Well done, guys. Champions League will be awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. That's great, mate. Great for you to say. And Marcus in the admin there saying thank you as well, which is great. Carl's saying, wrong button there. Carl is saying the Longstaff recent article is so good. Yeah, do you know what? Just to talk about Longstaff, actually, Lee, I'm going to get you in here because I know you love the Baron and Bacon as much as I do, mate. So Sean Longstaff put an article out. It was kind of shared on Twitter, I think through a Reddit feed or something like that. And Longstaff was really honest. He was really raw about how he felt under the time with Steve Bruce, that it really affected him mentally as well, and in terms of how he was, and he wasn't himself, and he confided in his dad. He broke down. We've got kids and that, we know what that's like. When your kid feels that way, whether they're 16 or 24, and it was quite sad to read it, but to hear what Eddie Howe has done to this lad, we're going to get onto Eddie Howe in a minute, but to hear what Eddie Howe has done for this lad, not just professionally but personally as well, mate. I mean, just a phenomenal man as well as a manager, isn't he?
Let me say in the first instance, I've read the article and I think it's damning on Steve Bruce. It's a real damning indictment.
Really bad.
Of Steve Bruce and his approach to man management. I just thought for how to come in and do what he did, and he talked in the article about, I think within the first 5 or 6 days, Eddie Howe had stood up in front of the entire first team squad and laid himself bare in terms of his entire life story I think, I mean, what better way to get, what do you call it, the people who you want to go on a journey with you on side? He's just gone, warts and all, this is me sort of thing. And from Bruce, who I think it's commonly recognised was very, very aloof with staff and employees and players and what have you, to go from that to this, all of a sudden you've got this fellow coming in and just laying his cards on the table and what have you. I just think, I mean, listen, I'd say it's genius, but if I would use the description genius, it sounds like he's done it in a manipulative way. I don't think for a second he's done it in a manipulative way. I think he's done it because it's his way of managing the players and getting them on side. And apparently every single player since has had to do exactly the same thing. You see the togetherness every single Saturday, every Wednesday we play on that pitch. And I think it all stems from the manager and his approach to management. I just think, listen, I can't say enough good things about him. Even Luke Edwards said something tonight, which was along the lines of not seeing this sort of adulation for a Newcastle manager since the days of Robson and Keegan. Now, that is what you call it, some statement. When you're up on those sort of levels, it just tells you everything about the way Newcastle United fans feel about their manager. And I genuinely think you can, what you call, record this and clip it and play it back 2-3 years' time. I think Howe will surpass both Robson and Keegan's achievements at Newcastle.
I was just about to say the very same thing. I think he will be way, way ahead of both of those managers, which is something to say, innit?
Yeah, it's incredible. Sorry, I couldn't help but laugh when you said even Luke Edwards there, Lee. That made me chuckle. Even Luke, if you're watching, by the way, mate. But I'm just getting your take on this comment as well. That there was a little bit in the article about Matt Ritchie where, if anyone hasn't read the piece, not to spoil it for you, but Matt Ritchie actually called Sean after, realising that he was struggling and offered him some support and put him on to somebody to talk to. And Sean was very complimentary about Matt Ritchie. I mean, that says a lot about the kind of characters that are in that squad, even if they're not playing as well, and I mean, a little bit on Matt Ritchie, Ash, as well, because Adam, so I think that's class, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely class. And I think you see that all across the squad. I don't think anyone is banging down Eddie's door demanding to play more minutes, because I think they're really enjoying the character of the group. They're really enjoying the culture that Eddie and his staff and the upper management as well have installed. I mean, just the fact that they all, get together for that Christmas do with the kids and with the academy kids and that new, very fancy looking canteen they have there at the training ground. I think it just shows that they've developed a real culture among them. I mean, Matt Ritchie, I know he played the other day, which he must have won a bet or something off Eddie to get 5 minutes in that game. But I couldn't believe Matt Ritchie was actually coming on to play for Newcastle. It blew my mind.
I reckon that was a farewell.
Yeah, well, it must have been something, because it was truly bizarre. I mean, he wasn't even, he didn't even get on against Bournemouth. But anyway, my point is, I think it's just great to see so many of these guys along for the journey. And Longstaff talked about that, right? Why he was keen to stay to sign that 3-year contract, because he was just saying, imagine where this club will be in 3 years, and now I get to sort of be a part of that. So it was a great article. It was incredibly damning about Steve Bruce, although it probably just confirmed what a lot of us thought more than surprised any of us. I always thought that Steve Bruce, the difference between Steve Bruce and a manager like Eddie Howe is that Steve Bruce might have told the lads what he wanted the team to do. Like, I want the team's identity to be X, Y, and Z. But there was no individual coaching. I mean, you could see that. Yeah. None of the players had any sort of individual goals, it looked like. Whereas now I think Eddie's probably challenged all of them to have individual goals as well as team goals. And worked hard with each of them to get them to where they want to be. I mean, Sean Longstaff is the weakest link in that midfield. Like, I don't think that, no one's surprised by that information, but I think he knows the role that he can play in developing team possession and in getting us up the field. He's making far more runs into the box than he ever had before. He's got goals. He deserves more goals. He probably could have had one against Chelsea in particular that he almost scored, but he's playing a specific role in that team. And it wouldn't surprise me, they might buy a midfielder, they might even buy one in January, and that will mean less game time for someone like Sean Longstaff. But much like you see with Lascelles, hopefully with Target, with the other lads that aren't getting as much game time, Jacob Murphy and so on, it doesn't seem to affect the morale of the group. It just seems that they are all hand in hand going forward together. And I don't know how you do that. I've never had to manage people like that before, but I think it's an incredible skill. And Eddie clearly has it. So no, it's really impressive stuff.
It's amazing. Just before you jump in, PK, just Mark's put a link to the Longstaff article down there as well, guys. So check it out after the show, obviously, as Mark says. Go on, PK. What do you want to add to that, mate?
I certainly think it's easier when you're winning games. It's easier not to necessarily be knocking on the manager's door demanding game time. I think if we go on a run where we lose 2 or 3 games, then maybe, say Maximum, for example, he'll be banging on that door saying, "How get me back in?" In French, clearly. But I think it's when you're second, when you've won 6 on the hoof plus the 2 cup games, and you just keep winning. It's just all part of the culture, isn't it? It's when things get a bit trickier that players maybe get a bit more pissed off and think they have a divine right to be in that side. When at the minute, who can argue with Eddie's selection every week? Nobody.
But that's it. Just sticking with you, PK, on this one. So moving on to the next category that we're talking about, and certainly the manager is going to feature heavily in this. So what has 2022 meant to you as a Newcastle fan? So just before we all kind of talk about what the year has meant to us as fans, and you guys feel free to jump in the comments to tell us what it's meant to you as Newcastle fans. Just wanted to pull up this statistic that Mark's been beavering away with. Mark's dying of man flu, so he is in the comments. God bless him. But if he came on the show, he'd sound like he was going to chase Nev Campbell down the street with a knife, probably. So very good job he's not on tonight. But you can see there Eddie Howe in 2022. So 35 games, 21 wins, 8 draws, 6 losses, 57 goals for, and 31 against. PK, just tell us a little bit about what 2022 has meant for you and how much of an influence this man has had, on your thoughts of it as a Newcastle fan.
Just before I do, Mark better get at the ready because Lee's going to have a dramatic monologue that's going to go to music, innit?
Absolutely. I've got the hankies ready.
You know what? 2022 to me, none of those stats really matter to me. Yes, we're doing amazingly. Yeah. Yes, we're second. Yes, we've conceded very few goals, etc. None of it's been about that for me. It's been about going to the pub before the game, having a few pints with the likes of Lee and with me mates, and really looking forward to getting into that ground. The flags, War Flags, who do an incredible job. The fans, the atmosphere, particularly under the lights, just the enjoyment of the ride. We've said it already tonight. We're enjoying the journey. It's the ride. It's the atmosphere. It's the pride in your club again. It's nothing to do with necessarily how we're doing and how we're performing. It's that hope that, the owners, that Eddie Howe, that Tyndall, that the rest of the coaching staff have given us, and the enjoyment of what's going on the football pitch. It's not really the results. It's not the league table. It is the journey and the hope and the enjoyment of loving your club and the connect between the club and the fans again. And that's just meant everything in 2022 to me. Maybe that can go to music.
You just done Lee over there, Lee. I'm going to keep you till last because he's big jump here, but just Ash has jumped in the comments there. Lovely for you to say, Ash. It was the year you found evermore, and from a personal success, you become a paid writer to write about Newcastle. So that's class for you, Ash. 2022 has been a great year for you. Carl say it's the year that's made him fall in love with the club again, which I think a lot of us can certainly resonate with. Adam, what did 2022 even mean to you as a Newcastle fan? Just with everything that's gone on and off the pitch, mate. What does it mean for you?
Yeah, I just second what everybody has been saying and how I think we all feel. It's just having our club back again, waking up feeling good about being a Newcastle supporter. It's been a very long time since that has been the case. And I think for many of us, certainly I'm this way, my whole outlook on life precipitates around how Newcastle are doing. And for the last 15, almost 20 years, really, that has meant that I've always had a bit of a frown. Not everybody notices it. I don't yell at everybody all the time or whatever, but I think that for most of us, our day and how we feel is sort of, love, life and work and Newcastle. For me, it's basically Newcastle and everybody else. So I think, to get a real testimony to how I feel about this club at the minute, you'd be better off getting my wife on the pod and have her talk about what it's been like to have me around the house while Newcastle have been so good. I've been with my wife for 17 years, so she's not really experienced this. So I think she's enjoying it, and certainly my kids are enjoying it. And I think just on a personal level, just with the age that my kids are at now, they're able to sit and like watch a full game with me and really sort of understand what's happening and talk about the players and learn about the players. They've got their little Newcastle shirts, and my daughter's a big Callum Wilson fan. My son loves Bruno, and my wife told me on Saturday that she is actually in love with Fabian Schär. I thought she'd been joking this whole time, but I don't think she was. Turns out she actually is, so that's good to know. But it's all those things. It's all, we've all got this sort of personal connection to the club. And just lastly from me, being over there last month and watching the Chelsea game, getting to meet PK and seeing Lee again was so incredible. I was there the year before, right after the takeover. I was at the Burnley game and the Norwich game, which was sort of the beginning of the run that we've all been talking about. But to be there a year on and see the difference among the fans around the stadium, in the city, and obviously on the pitch as well, it's been a remarkable ride. And to PK's point, those stats are obviously incredible. But more importantly, I think just the fact that we all feel good about our club again is what really matters. And that's what I think maybe outsiders don't really understand.
Yeah.
People that don't know Newcastle that well, or maybe that don't even know the Premier League all that well, just, you see those stats and you're like, great, you've obviously had a really good year, 2022, but it's about so much more than that. And that doesn't always come across for everybody, but it certainly does for me.
Absolutely, mate. Well said. Absolutely well said. And I think it is. It's a feeling. It isn't just results. It's everything. You would have felt it when you came back as well, Adam, and you felt it around the city. Now we're going to come to the man himself. We'll get the Titanic music ready for the monologue from Mr. Forster here. So don't let us down, Lee. We're big jump, mate. So tell us what 2022 was meant to you.
First thing I would say is, Adam, what you call it? Don't feel bad that your wife loves Fabian Schär. Everybody's wife loves Fabian Schär.
Pretty much. Yes.
Anything else, they're lying to you. They all love Fabian Schär. I'm going to go down the route of PK. Unsurprisingly, you can listen. Wins and good football, we love it. Everybody loves it. It's what we originally started following the club in the hope of. But for me, 2022, it's just I've been taking my boy to the match since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. And listen, I love it. He loves it. But it's always been tinged with a little bit of sadness for me. The fact that there was nothing there for him to support. Sort of always thinking there's nothing for him to get behind, for him to be proud of. Now, it's as I say, it's not actually the winning that's mattered this season. It's actually the fact that there is something now for him to get behind and be proud of. His friends are all glory hunting Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool fans, whatever. And I always felt quite bad for the lad. When we went to football training and what have you, because let's be honest, for such a long time, Newcastle were a laughing stock of a club. They were an embarrassing club to support sometimes. They really were. And as a young, impressionable kid, it would have been very, very easy for him to have erred away from the club and what have you, but he didn't. He managed to dig in, sort of thing. What this season has done for me, that this year has done, it's restored not just my lads, but everybody I know who's associated and follows the club. It's restored their pride in the football club. It's restored their pride in the city. It feels like you use the word united. We always use the word united, but I've never felt this club and its fan base so united as it is now. Everybody feels together, and after the last 10 to 14 years where the fan base was fractured almost to the point of civil war, it's just such a nice feeling to see that. Everybody before the game, after the game, smiles on the faces, everybody pulling in the same direction. And I'm talking about from, what do you call it, Eddie Howe down to the tea lady, down to the fans and what have you. I mentioned in the group chat today, and you probably laughed at me when I posted it, I keep watching clips of the players with the supporters after games when they come across and they applaud the supporters applaud the players and what have you. Bruno celebrating winning a throw-in at Leicester on Tuesday. And I find myself, I'm nearly 50 years old, and I find myself getting quite emotional. I do, watching that sort of thing, because we've not had it for so long, and that's what it's done. It's given me my lad. It's given my lad pure enjoyment, and it's given me pride in the football club again. And listen, if you've got pride in your football club, what more can you ask?
It's well said, Lee. I mean, there's some great comments coming in as well. I mean, just to finish on my thoughts on it, certainly as a supporter of the club, the club was in such a stale, stagnant place in football. And, saying it in football in terms of league positions and, finances as a business and everything else, the club means way more than that to the people of Newcastle, the Newcastle fans all around the world. This club is something special to them. If you could bottle it and sell it, it'd be some magic elixir that would just cure all of your ails in life. People who are lonely, this football club helps them along. People who are sad, this football club can help bring them up, from where they are. And, Eddie Howe has brought that back to Newcastle fans all across the world. And, as you said, Lee, these lads just get it. And it all stems from that manager, that nucleus of the football club. Steve Bruce was from this area and he didn't get it. He didn't understand it. Eddie Howe, a lad from down the South Coast way, has come to this football club. And he's a very intelligent, articulate, perceptive guy, and he gets it. He's tapped into this magic chemical that exists around this football club, and because of that, we've got to thank him for everything that he's done. I'm so proud to be a Newcastle fan and to see this next generation, like your lad Lee, coming through, seeing this Newcastle United that care, that actually give a fuck about winning a throw-in, never mind winning games. So it's amazing to see, and long may it continue. And I honestly think under this manager and under this regime, this will just continue to grow and grow. I don't think it'll become some soulless, horrible, empty-had type arena. I don't think this club will allow that to happen. There's something special and magical in this club that I think these owners will just continue to allow it to thrive and grow. And, what an exciting few years we've got ahead of us, lads. It'd be amazing.
And I think, just to add to that, Chris, the sliding doors moment for me was when Unai Emery turned us down. I don't think we'd have the same feeling 100%. Around the whole club if it wasn't Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's doing more for this club in the last 12 months than Kevin Keegan. And there you go. You can clip that one. Because I was around and I had a season ticket in the Keegan years. I have a more positive feeling because Keegan's era was built on sand, wasn't it? No reserve team, no future. Unfortunately, it was all for the now. We're building a club for the now and for the next 10 and 20 and 30 years. And Eddie Howe is central to that. And for me, I'd love it if we won the league. Love it.
Who's segueing now, mate? Who's segueing now? But great comment there as well from Maggot Browner that would love to win the FA Cup. My God, FA Cup, League Cup. If Eddie Howe wins a trophy, you might as well build a statue now. And Roger's just saying carefully, that's far too much optimistic talk from you, mate. So you get a bit carried away. But we're going to finish up the episode, lads, because we've nearly done an hour. Just a quick look at the game coming up on New Year's Eve. Newcastle is going to be extremely merry on New Year's Eve, certainly if we get 3 points against this lot. So Adam, just coming to you first. We've got Leeds at home. You fancy us to batter them, lads, mate?
Well, I never fancy us to batter anybody, but I am very, very.
Come on, Adam, dream.
Obviously, they play tonight. I can't imagine them getting anything out of tonight's game, so it's nice that they've got 2 days less to prepare for this game. My guess is Eddie's already had the lads back in, preparing for the Leeds game. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's lovely to end the year at home against a team towards the end of the bottom end of the league. But yeah, I mean, I'll always take 1-0 in every game, but I expect we'll play just as well as we did on Monday and come away with another 3 points and another clean sheet. I can't see us conceding at the minute. It's really amazing. So very, very confident.
Fantastic. PK, what's your take on it, mate? I know you'll be at the game, and then you'll probably be having a few merry sherries afterwards, mate. What do you think? Fucking
hell, I'm under orders. I've got to get home. Three. I've got my mates, my usher from my wedding. It was one of my old university pals is up. He's a Leeds fan.
Nice.
So I'm meeting him for a few sherbets. Lee, I'll introduce him to you if you're in Loco before the game on Saturday. Leeds are shit. I said it before the Southampton
famous
game.
Last words, PK.
No, fuck it. I'm confident these days. Leeds are shit. I think they'll come up here shit scared. The atmosphere will be red hot. They'll be loud as well, but the atmosphere will be red hot on 3 o'clock on a New Year's Eve. Everyone will be full of beer. I think I'm going. Jake's going 5-0. I'm saying 3-0.
On the beer now.
I'm saying 3-0, and I just think that they won't get anywhere near us on Saturday. Nowhere near us.
I can back in that. Mr. Forster finishes up then with your review, and then I'll give my quick one before we sign off. What's your take on it, mate? You'll be driving up and back, I take it, mate. You're not stopping over, right?
No, I'm what you call it, driving back. I'm under strict orders to be home as well, so I expect I'll get back around about 8:30 on Saturday night, just in time to have a few sherbets. First things first, I can't believe that the game's going ahead on New Year's Eve.
I know, it's crackers, isn't it?
Said at the start of the season, PK, on many occasions, I cannot see anywhere, shape or form the game wasn't getting moved, because having 3,000 Leeds fans in Newcastle City Centre on a Saturday, on New Year's Eve, on a Saturday evening, it's just asking for bother. Having a look earlier, Leeds are in the away form table. Leeds are 19th. They've won 1, drawn 1, and they've lost 5. Admittedly, that win was at Anfield. It was, but the teams that they've lost to Brighton, Brentford, Palace, Leicester, Wolves, aren't pulling up trees. I'm just seeing that, sorry. As Peter mentioned, the atmosphere is going to be electric. It's going to be absolutely electric. War Flags are doing War Flags bits already. If you go on their socials, you've seen there's foils in the East Stand. So I think you can expect something similar to what we saw, not on the scale, but similar sort of idea to that against Arsenal at the end of last season in terms of what went on in the East Stand. Everybody's going to be tanked up apart from me and PK by the sounds of it, because we're driving. So
I'm not driving. I'm having a few.
He'll be pissed. Don't worry about that, mate. He'll be pissed.
You're fucking driving. I'll buy you a shandy.
It's going to be a bear pit. It's going to be a bear pit of an atmosphere.
Could get messy. Could get messy.
I definitely hope we win. And this, what I'm hoping we win, not for me, not for the lad, not for the fans, whatever. This time I want us to win, but I want them to win for the club and the employees and the players and the directors, because after the 2022, they deserve to go out on a high. They really do, all the way from Murdad and Amanda down to the tea lady. The club and everybody involved in the club deserves to end the year on a high, and I genuinely think we will. Leeds have got an injury list as long as your arm. They've got Click, Harrison, Liam Cooper, Rodrigo, Somerville, Adams, Sinistera, and Patrick Bamford.
Rodrigo's playing tonight.
Is he playing tonight?
Is he playing tonight? Is he?
They've got a long injury list, and they've also got 72 hours recovery time.
That's right.
We're going to have a Callum Wilson chomping at the bit on Saturday, I expect. Howe's confident that he'll be ready. And let's be honest, as well as we did on Monday at Leicester, you drop Callum Wilson into that team and we're a different animal.
Especially at home.
Yeah. So for me, what do you call it? I'm going 3-1 win. I can't see anything else, which worries me in itself. Yeah, I know. Which worries me in itself, the fact that I'm actually predicting a win. If anything other than a win actually occurs on Saturday afternoon, I am never predicting a win again in my life.
I was going to say, we'll have to give you a rest from the podcast, mate. If you predicted a win and we get beat, I must say. But, to be honest, you've said it all, lads. I mean, we're in such good form. I think the performance against Leicester just shows you how dedicated and ruthless and determined this side are. I don't think Leeds have got enough for us. As you said there, Lee, there's some big players there who are injury doubts for them, which is a major worry. I think with that atmosphere as well, with War Flags doing what they do best, I think Leeds will lose the game practically in the tunnel before they come out. So I'm going to go 3-0 as well. I think we'll beat them quite easily. I think Wilson will be chopping the bit. He will get on the score sheet, and I think we'll finish the year in a strong position in that top 4, and rightly so. But that's us pretty much wrapped up, lads. Just before we shut off, I just wanted to just make a note of saying this is the last kind of Evermore we'll do of 2022, and just I suppose on behalf of me and Mark and all of the lads, we want to thank you guys for making it a great year for us as a channel as well. All you that click like and subscribe, we really appreciate it. The growth we've had in the channel has been unbelievable. None of us expected it. It's probably because this club is just fucking amazing right now and everybody wants to hear about it. So we're buzzing with that. But if you haven't clicked that button already, make sure you do. There's loads of room for you here. All free content, just really good lads and PK talking about Newcastle United. Sorry, PK.
Cheers.
No, just, we love doing this. It really helps us. Just kind of, get stuck into what we want to talk about. For the likes of myself and some of the lads as well, it's been a really good distraction from some other stuff that's been going that hasn't been too good in 2022. So massive thanks to all you boys who make this channel what it is. And let's hope 2023 is as successful as 2022, both for the club and for our channel. So that's us signing off, guys. Wherever you are, have a cracking New Year's Eve. From me and the lads, we'll catch you later.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.